just happened now. We are
This year has been crazy. I have been to 48 countries and I've traveled so intensively that when I sit here and look back, I'm honestly shocked about all the travels I've done.
only in Madagascar.
Yeah. Mongolia.
2022 has been one of my craziest travel years ever after 11 years of traveling. I spent nearly 6 weeks in Italy over 4 visits. I went to Syria for the second time, experienced the World Cup in Qatar, and so much more. This is the review of my 2022, but first let's rewind time a little.
Girls, how clean are we from 1 to 10?
10.
I had an untraditional Christmas for me in Central African Republic by the end of 2021. Then I went to enjoy Diani Beach in Kenya. I went to Mombasa and the capital Nairobi. I then went to the tiny island country in the Indian Ocean called Comoros, or the Vanilla Islands. And then I had New Year's in Zanzibar, Tanzania, and did some island hopping there afterwards.
Happy New Year from Zanzibar!
No doubt that 2022 had started for me with a bang.
Electricity went off. 196 years old.
Karibu in Zanzibar.
Next up was a revisit to
Tunisia,
one of the most free Muslim countries.
Yeah, a lot of freedom. I'm free. I do what I want.
I love Tunisia.
Tunisia is good.
Before I did my third Ironman train group trip. You can, by the way, check my Instagram for upcoming group trips on Gus1thego. I'm making fewer and fewer group trips, so join one while you can. It was an amazing round trip we did with all the highlights of Mauritania with really awesome people. After that trip I left Africa and went to the Caribbean to visit my last country in that region.
St. Lucia?
Yes, born and bred.
This beautiful Caribbean island is famed for sun-toasted beaches, lush landscapes, crowned by the towering Twin Pitons and a warm St. Lucia welcome.
1, 2, 3.
St. Lucia.
I spent 8 days exploring this little paradise.
Yes, my brother.
Nice surprise.
Smoke.
Puerto Rico!
I'm from St. Lucia. Wonderful, my brother.
I went to Denmark and met up with some Iraqi followers in Copenhagen. Iraqis are always welcoming and hospitable. Then I went to Europe and spent a week in the south of Portugal. My 7th visit to the country, but my very first trip to Algarve. Golden sand beaches and natural marvels. Algarve surely didn't disappoint. Plenty of pastéis de nata and good memories from that trip. I went to Lisbon and spent the night with amazing food.
Berlin Tower.
Then I went to Azerbaijan to celebrate the world's most traveled man, Harry Matilda's 50th birthday, alongside a lot of other travel addicts. And we visited Nagorno-Karabakh, Susha and Leshin, 2 major mountainous towns. I also explored the capital Baku, and it was really great to be back in Azerbaijan for a second time and to meet a lot of friendly people in the land of fire.
Welcome to Baku.
I'm from Ganja.
You're from Ganja? Okay, sure.
Then I went to Ethiopia. I have visited Ethiopia 14 times and I kind of unexpectedly had to stay there for 8 days this time, as my flight to the next destination was being rescheduled. I took advantage of the time and revisited the African boy with the blue eyes, a bush in Jinka in the south, that I last saw 5 years ago, and I was so happy to see him again. I also stayed with the Mursi tribe, the Karo tribe, and the Hama tribe. And it was unique experiences and insights. Staying with different tribes always teach me more about life, so I was very grateful for this. I spent some time back in the capital Addis Ababa with good friends. And 2 guys tried to take my phone this time, but I picked up both of the guys and had my phone with me afterwards.
What happened before?
The scene back then.
Yeah?
They tried to steal your phone from your pocket. Yeah, and then you stopped them.
I guess they picked the wrong guy. They went to the ground.
Ethiopia is surely one of my favorite African countries, and it has plenty of choices in store for the curious traveler. Then I made it to one of Africa's hardest countries to visit.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Este país es realmente único y aquí Gus1thego. ¿Por qué?
Bienvenido a Ecuatorial Guinea.
Equatorial Guinea. I spent 3 days in hotel quarantine there at first, and I then had 11 days of exploration after in the only country in Africa with Spanish as the official language.
Hola. ¿Cómo estás?
I did a lot of hiking in this tiny country, and it was interesting and difficult at times to explore the smallest African country to be a member of the United Nations. This is actually one of the richest countries in Africa because of the oil resources, but the wealth is very concentrated. I then had 1 day in Egypt. Next up was Chad.
Chad is a place that I will never visit again. This place is miserable.
I got home to Denmark and received my other passport, which had been in the Chadian embassy in Berlin for 2 weeks. I just managed to get it on time, and few hours later I flew to Chad. A country that has been said a lot of negative things about, but I had a great time here in the heart of Africa. Chad has over 200 ethnic groups and 100 languages spoken in the country, and I was fascinated by learning some more about this primarily semi-desert country and its hospitality. It was also great to play football with the local Chadian lads, and I really try to do in every country that I visit. Then it was time for South America. First stop on the trip was Cusco in Peru. Peru was my country 173, and it was great visiting Cusco, the old capital of the Inca Empire. The capital Lima, which is the world's second largest desert city after Cairo. Puno in the south. And the floating villages of Lake Titicaca, and so many other places. Even though we were told to wear 2 masks at the same time, I really enjoyed my time in Peru. No visit to Peru is complete without visiting Machu Picchu. And I took the hike up there, of course, for the full Inca experience.
Would have thought Machu Picchu would be totally packed. It's actually not, and I think they did a really good job organizing this. And also, like, the mountains surrounding the place makes it even more incredible.
With that visit, I finally managed to visit all of the new 7 wonders of the world after 11 years of traveling. Dreams do come true. Next up, Bolivia.
1, 2, 3, Bolivia!
The most drunk country. This is Bolivia. Giant street parades and parties in La Paz and a crazy party culture. This made me quickly fall in love with Bolivia, and to see the world's largest salt flat, Salar de Uyuni, was so otherworldly. I watched Bolivia Brazil in one of the highest professional stadiums in the world, and it was just the perfect ending to my stay. After I made it to country 175, Chile. It was so difficult to enter Chile at the time with COVID restrictions.
Hope immigration will go well. It's no secret that Chile is one of the toughest countries during pandemic with rules. I had to fill out at least 10 documents.
And vaccine approvals. And you had to apply more than a month before to get permission. And in the end it worked out. Santiago, the capital of Chile, offers skiing high up in the majestic Andes, and 45 minutes later you can take walks on the beach and be surfing in the Pacific Ocean.
Woo! What a great beach. This is the famous watch here in Viña del Mar.
A city close to everything really, and Santiago is a well-built city loaded with history and beautiful architecture.
This guy is a really good painter. There are a lot of monuments here in Santiago, the capital of Chile.
I also played some tennis there and went wine tasting, which is a must in Chile. Before I looked out for the condors in Yabaloca National Park, which is the largest flying bird in the world. Ecuador was next, country 176, my last country to visit in South America. I explored Quito's historic center, which is one of the best preserved in the Americas.
This is Quito. Such a beautiful view of Quito from up here. Vamos, Quito.
I also did the obligatory stop,
Mitad del mundo.
a small city crossed by the equatorial line that connects the northern hemisphere with the southern hemisphere, the middle of the world.
Volcanoes.
Then I went to Mexico for the 3rd time and chilled out a bit in Mexico City.
Bienvenidos, Mexico.
Mexico City is absolutely worth visiting because it's full of history and the cuisine is among the best in the world.
It's a must to have some tacos here in Mexico.
One of the most lively and largest cities in the world.
You're from Mexico?
Yeah.
Yes.
I came to Netherlands for 1 day. Then I went to Positano and the Amalfi Coast in Italy. I was there around April and it was a great time to visit in the shadow season, where you can have much of it by yourself. The Amalfi Coast is definitely worth visiting. The winding streets, stunning sunsets, and the Italian charm. Underrated cities like Sorrento.
Let's try the cappuccino here in Naples.
Beautiful views and idyllic beauty.
Molto buono.
Then I went to Morocco for the 6th time. I explored Marrakesh, Casablanca and Deroua this time. This North African country is full of amazing things to do.
Morocco.
A country of dazzling diversity, and for most people Morocco has always been the gateway to Africa. A country you have to get lost in and explore. I did another 1-week group trip after in Mauritania with a new group, and then I rushed to Madagascar. I ran like crazy in
Vienna airport, trying to go to my last country in Africa, Madagascar. I have to catch my connecting flight.
Before landing in Madagascar, I had my second visit of the year to Ethiopia, where I just chilled around Addis Ababa this time, and then I was off to Madagascar. Madagascar was so fascinating.
Yeah, it's a good country.
And the world's 4th largest island really didn't disappoint as my last country to visit in Africa.
Madagascar.
Also, I met a lot of Tottenham fans here, which was pretty random.
Tottenham Hotspurs in Madagascar.
One of the mega diverse countries in the world, full of lemurs, and it's crazy to think about Madagascar has been an isolated island for around 70 million years. I'm so happy I got to experience this.
The whole of Madagascar on my shoulders right now.
Next up, Turkey.
Shut up.
I came to Istanbul, which is like a second home for me, and chilled a bit in Kadıköy.
Turkish tea is up there among the best.
Very beautiful.
Then I tried to fly to Mongolia. It turned out my flight was overbooked and they offered me $800 not to go on the flight. But in the end I managed to get on and was ready to go to the least densely populated country in the world, Mongolia. I got to see the endangered two-hump Bactrian camel. I went to sleep in the Gobi Desert with some of Mongolia's biggest TikTokers. I explored Ulaanbaatar, which is the world's coldest capital city, but I came in the summer and had awesome weather. Mongolia is the second largest landlocked country in the world, and it was great to feel the vibes of the modern part and the vibes of the Mongol Empire and Genghis Khan. Huge country with lots of national parks. What a country. I came back to Denmark and took my mom to the hospital to have an operation. Then I flew to England and spent a bit of time there before going to Sicily for the first time. Here I spent some time in the west of the island and went to the beautiful Mondello beach and explored the western part of Sicily. The biggest city, Palermo. And the scenic coastal city in the north, Cefalù. I knew I would come back to Sicily later this year for the eastern part, but great to have a taste of this beautiful island, which is Italy's largest island. Had a quick stop in Venice on the way onwards where I had been before. Then I had 2 days in Copenhagen, Denmark, attending Distortion, one of Northern Europe's biggest street parties, with a lot of my friends. Very enjoyable days. After I was off to Indonesia for the 3rd time. I loved seeing Komodo dragons here before, but this time it was time for new adventures. Indonesia is the largest country in the world, comprised solely of islands. Yes, Indonesia is huge. This time it was not Bali for me, but I explored Jakarta at first, which is currently the largest city in Southeast Asia. Then after I flew to Kupang and explored this city and the surroundings a bit. From there I took a bus for 10 hours and went to Timor-Leste, my country 179. In Timor-Leste they have some of the world's biggest smiles and they speak Portuguese there as the only country in Asia. The population is very young there and Timor-Leste was the first new nation of the 21st century, as they gained independence from Indonesia in 2002. I learned a lot there during my visit.
I'm from Timor-Leste. I used to be with Indonesia, but now we are independent. It's 20 years.
I went back to Indonesia and played some badminton there. During the time there was Indonesian Open and I tried durian with my friend for the first time. Let's just say I had the full Indonesian experience, thanks to my friend Chanchil, who is a great guy and guide.
Saya suka makan durian.
After that it was time for my country 180. Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea boasts of over 850 different languages and hosts 5% of the world's global biodiversity. It has the world's 3rd largest rainforest and it's an incredible country to explore. So different from everything else in Asia, and betel nut is very popular here. There's so much culture and a vast variety of flora and fauna. I then went to beautiful Philippines. In my first visit here in 2015 I spent 1 month island hopping here, and this time I went to Coron, which is a true paradise. Unbelievably clear waters and magical lagoons. I also enjoyed Manila and Tagaytay City on this trip. The warmth, the kindness and the smiles of the Filipino people make this country a very special one for me.
This is Manila.
I went back to Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur for a few days. The tallest twin buildings in the world are in Malaysia. Malaysians always come across as strikingly friendly and positive people, and it's so diverse.
Okay, I'm from Malaysia.
Malaysia!
Yeah, I'm from Malaysia.
I then went to Thailand and spent a day there before going back to Denmark. I went to Amager Strand Park, which is not that far from where my apartment is, and I loved that the summer days in Denmark were so long. Sun up at 4 a.m. and down at 11 p.m. Then I was off to Lebanon. I have been to Lebanon 5 times, and this time I managed to travel around the country. Beirut, Byblos, Baalbek,
Harissa, Lebanon.
and so many more spots. The economy is really bad at the moment in Lebanon, but the Lebanese people are resilient and offer a hospitality like few others. Lebanese food is amazing, and even though the country is small, there's surprisingly much to see. Then I went to Syria. I came back to Syria for the second time. This time with a group. I traveled all around the country again like I did 3.5 years back, and this time I added Palmyra and Tartus on my trip. Syria is definitely not totally safe. Anyone saying that would be a liar, and especially for the Syrian people, which is why a lot of Syrians are displaced. But Syria is home to one of the oldest civilizations ever, and I do love the Syrian people that I came across. And I do feel the pain of the Syrians who can't go back to that country. Very mixed experience thinking of all the horror that has happened here recently, but I did have a great time with my group overall, and Syria has a special place in my heart, most of all because of the friendly Syrian people.
Welcome to Syria.
After we went back to Beirut, Lebanon with my Gus1thego group and had a great time partying in Beirut and enjoyed the last of Lebanon. A guy fixed something on the flight seat next to me, and then I went back to Denmark to spend some amazing time with my grandmother and watch Tour de France with my grandparents, who have been married 62 years.
Nå, ellers går det godt.
Ja, det gør jeg sgu.
Where we saw the Dane Gus1thego win it all. Magical experience with my dear grandparents.
Tak for det.
A lot of fun in Denmark these few days before I had a quick stop in Warsaw, Poland, and then off to Montenegro for the second time in my life. I rented a car and went all around the country. My favorite spot was the Durmitor National Park, just a breathtaking area. A good place to go for a swim.
Welcome to Montenegro!
While the capital Podgorica is not typical European eye candy, the city is definitely worth visiting.
From the capital, Podgorica, yes.
And Kotor and Budva are much better and great coastal towns. Montenegro really has exceptional landscapes for such a small country, and it's the definition of underrated. The seaside, the great prices, and breathtaking mountains. Some people say the Montenegrins are the world's tallest people, but I think the Dutch people or the Dinka tribe in South Sudan might disagree with that. Anyway, very tall people and tall mountains in Montenegro. Are they the tallest people? Guys, let me know. Please comment.
What do you like about Montenegro?
That you can see all of that within an hour.
I then went to one of my best friend's wedding in Denmark over 3 days, and it was just a wonderful wedding.
Really surprisingly to see him so happy.
I explored the south of Denmark a bit after and took a day where I hit up the 10 best things to do in Copenhagen, which was a lot of fun to make. And if you're visiting Copenhagen, you might want to check my video on that. And I always love to do different water activities. I then did 5 weeks of exploration around Italy in the summertime. Italy is now home to the largest number of UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the world, so there's always more to see here. Even though it's one of my most visited countries in Europe, I always enjoy coming back. Italy needs no further explanation. It's fantastico, and I visited a lot of secret corners of the country that are not places that the typical tourist would go.
Not many tourists in Pescara.
I also went to the Vatican, which technically is a country, and that marked my 5th visit to the smallest country in the world.
Vatican!
Anyway, after these many weeks I went to Sardinia for the first time, even though my parents went many years ago and told me they were not the biggest fans of Sardinia. It was a bit expensive, yes, but mesmerizing beaches, crystal clear sea, extraordinary nature and delicious food, better than expected for me. In this trip I also went back to the east of Sicily to see this side, and I climbed Mount Etna, which is one of the world's most active volcanoes. In fact, it has had documented records of eruptions in the world. I was so happy to both visit the west and the east of Sicily, and Catania was very different from Palermo because it's smaller.
Catania!
Catania had great views over the sea and the Etna volcano. I went to Poland again to visit Gdańsk and one of Poland's most boring cities, Elbląg, which turned out to have a very beautiful old town.
This is St. Mary's Cathedral, the largest brick church in Europe. It can hold over 25,000 people and it's really huge.
I returned a bit to Denmark and saw my childhood club Næstved play at home and away also. I had my professional debut for Næstved when I just turned 17, breaking the 10-year record in the club. And I always followed Næstved on the sidelines of my travels. Hopefully they will get promoted to the best Danish league this year. It looks promising at least, and good memories with my family and dad especially, who is the biggest Næstved supporter. I went back to Iceland where I've been a few times before, but it was my very first time making video there. I had a great time in Reykjavik by myself.
Welcome to Reykjavik!
And then me and my Icelandic friend Bjartmar from Akureyri drove around most of the eastern part of Iceland. Did you know Iceland has the most powerful waterfall in Europe? Anyway, Iceland is mystical and you can find some really remote and isolated areas, which is a nature lover's paradise. Plus, Iceland is so safe.
Even when walking around alone at night, you don't need to worry about anything here in Iceland.
Maybe the safest country in the world. Let me know in the comments below.
Everybody know each other and yeah, it's kind of like family.
I did some more interviews in Copenhagen and saw the
Copenhagen half marathon. These guys are fast.
And then I took an early morning flight to Rhodes. I have been to more than 10 Greek islands, but never to Rhodes. And it's my grandfather's, who was a farmer, only place he has traveled outside Denmark and Norway. So I wanted to go there so I could talk with him about it. Rhodes is home to a magnificent acropolis, a medieval town and long curves of sandy beach. Rhodes didn't let me down, and I also went to visit Simi, which is colorful and elegant, and just a stone's throw from the shores of Turkey. And I surely had something to talk with my grandfather about after this trip.
We are from Rhodes Island.
Sun, the weather, the sleeping. You have to come here and stay.
I forgot which day my flight was back from Rhodes and I missed my direct flight back to Copenhagen. So I had to take a flight to Finland first the day after, spend some hours there and then fly to Copenhagen. Shit happens and you have to make the best out of it. I came to Denmark and had some fun talks with my grandparents, and my grandfather started smoking cigars again after a little break. He worked in the sun his whole life as a farmer, drank so many beers, smoked so many cigars and did everything the experts told him not to do. He's 87 now and still going strong. I enjoyed some quality time with my parents, played a bit of football with my dad, and I then came back to Turkey for the second time this year, and 10th in total, and drove all around Turkey this time. Around 5,000 kilometers with my Turkish friend Atakan, and we saw all of the major places and some hidden gems like Batman in the east and the bird village Kuşköy. This is a trip I will never forget, with so many ups and downs, but most ups. Amazing trip.
How do you say goodbye?
I came back to turn 30 for one day in Denmark and then off to Armenia. I went to the extraordinary travel festival in Armenia and met up with all the world's biggest travelers. I explored Armenia a bit after with Geography Now.
Biggest lake in Armenia.
We also traveled to Georgia after and explored these two countries for 2 weeks.
Super bad in Tbilisi, Georgia.
We could get arrested.
And went to some cool and remote places in both countries. Such a great travel buddy. You're the man, Babs. I then went to the Philippines for the second time in this year, and I went to Manila and the south to Davao. I saw some new and different areas of Philippines, and it's always great to explore some of Philippines' 7,640 islands. I also had durian in Davao, which the city is famous for, but nobody really wanted to share with me.
You don't eat durian?
I have no girlfriend.
I'm from the Philippines.
I think I know Manila pretty well now after many visits to the capital of Philippines. It's full of action. I then went to Palau. Matchless island scenery, pristine dive sites, and world-famous natural features, including the forest-tufted rock islands and the surreal jellyfish lake, full of sharks and fascinating underwater life.
It's nature, it's underwater life, and the people.
I swam 1 kilometer out to a platform in the middle of the water.
And I'm here swimming. Platform is now here. It's been a long journey. All the way from over there. It's hard when you can only use one hand.
Where some locals had a barbecue. And it ended up being an amazing travel memory, even though it was such a long swim. I did a lot of cool things in Palau, which is scenically magical.
Only ladies. Yeah, there you go. Remember all the spots.
I came back to Philippines for the 3rd time this year alone and explored the nightlife in Manila and stayed in a great location. Then I went back to for the 2nd time this year.
Bangkok, Thailand.
Saw some beautiful temples and went bathing with the elephants in Chiang Mai. Thailand was better now than usually because it wasn't as overcrowded with tourists. The countless temples, the friendly and helpful Thais. Thailand is awesome.
Wow, I think Thailand is a really good country.
From Thailand.
From Thailand.
I came home to Denmark and recorded a World Cup song and video straight away.
Katar, de har olie, de har endnu mere end sjæller. Danmark har Dansilio, og de frisbak, de smelter. Når solen står op, og vi vågner igen, så ved vi det er Danmark, min bedste ven. Vi giver ikke op, før vi kommer derhen. I ved at det er Danmark, vi vinder VM. Vi vinder VM.
I then went to the World Cup in Qatar. I want to make it clear that everything on my World Cup trip has been self-paid and I haven't received any money from anyone. Therefore, I'll give you my honest opinion.
USA! Holland, Holland!
England! Coming home, maybe.
Australia.
Argentina. France. Ghana.
Mexico!
Portugal.
I'm from South Africa.
Morocco.
What we have said from the beginning, we try to keep politics and football away from each other. Let football be football. Where there's unity, there's always victory. And remember that whoever you are, however you look, and whatever you believe in, try to always be a respectful guest in someone else's home. And that gives the respect and will for others to learn and to change. We are all human. Feel free to share the real message of love and friendship at the World Cup in Qatar. Let's celebrate football and each other. What do you think about the World Cup? Please comment below. Denmark did really bad, but what an experience to attend one of the best World Cups ever. With my Mexican friend Hermano, aka Jonathan. Where else will you have everything so centralized, amazing atmosphere and plenty of fan zones? This will be remembered for an amazing organization, and I wasn't paid a single $1 by Qatar. This is my honest opinion. I came to Denmark and watched our last match, but we sucked, and that's life. And I had a good burger after. Then I flew to Switzerland and had some Swiss chocolate.
Just got a little chocolate here in Zurich and now I'm rushing to my flight.
And then I went to UAE. Spent some days exploring new areas in Dubai with my Pakistani friend Zain. Always a new place to see, whether it's a marina or a mall. Then I visited Nepal again. Did a $30 challenge in Kathmandu with my friend Cynthia and visited a lot of temples. Nepal is a country of contrast, home to 10 of the world's 14 highest mountains, and so many beautiful views and beautiful people, inside and out. Nepali people are so relaxed. I also visited Nagarkot and Bhaktapur, and then I came back to Kathmandu and watched Brazil play with friends. Next up, country 182, the greenest country in the world, Bhutan. And probably the happiest country I've ever been to. A country of ancient traditions, and we saw so much during our time here, including the Druk Wangyal festival, which is only one time a year, where we also got to meet the president. Yes, they have a president and a king in the kingdom of Bhutan. I learned so much about this tiny, clean and stunning country.
Druk Wangyal!
Another fantastic Gus1thego group trip. Remember, you can check my Instagram and see if you want to join any future trips. I came back to Kathmandu and explored some more, and then I went to the far east of Nepal, to Bhadrapur. I had one of the most scenic flights ever there, seeing Mount Everest right to the left from a clear blue sky. It was epic to visit a new region of Nepal so different from the rest of the country. And I also managed to cross the border to India and spend a day there. And it was so interesting to experience the contrast and the border life here between the two countries. I came back to Kathmandu, Nepal and just walked around the streets and talked to the locals, which I always enjoy. Then I went to Dubai and saw some more new areas and saw Messi win the World Cup final with a lot of Argentinians. Just magical. Is he the best player ever? I don't know. What do you think? I came to Denmark for Christmas. Then I had Christmas with my lovely grandmother, who was in such a great mood. And the day after I went to see my lovely grandparents. And I look back on a year where I did a lot of traveling. And I also managed to spend quality time with my family, which is super important to me. I like to spend my time wisely, on the go or with dear friends or family. Gus1thego came to Denmark in the end of the year and we went to Copenhagen and had the cold Viking experience in Denmark. This was my travel year. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a simple step. Adventures are the best way to learn, and remember guys, have stories to tell, not stuff to show. Investments in travel is investments in yourself. Most importantly, I want to thank all of you guys for watching and supporting me, so I can continue telling stories all around the world. Whether you're supporting my Patreon or just commenting on my videos, it all means a lot to me. 285,000 subscribers on YouTube, 250,000 followers on Facebook, and a lot of new faces on TikTok and Instagram. Your support means the world to me, and if you're still watching now, feel free to write good job below. I will see you guys in the new year for more adventures, and I have a lot of videos to finish now as I'm doing everything myself. One man army. And remember to subscribe to Gus1thego. See you guys.